Let's start with our home view, all right? And in order to work this nicely, we're going to have also our view model to make everything nice and separate. So I'm going to actually create another folder, new group, and call this domain. And here we are going to put our view model. So Command N Swift file, call this home view model. All right, I'm going to copy this, create a final class home view model, and this is observable object. So we confirm to observable object protocol. So let's think what our home view should have. I'm going to open my Ready application. So it has an array of drinks which are actually grouped with some of their value, which in our case is just their, if we go to our drinks, we have all our drinks and they have a category. So in our view here, we are going to group them by their category and show them in a list. So we need an array of all drinks here in our view model. So let's create a published var. Actually, this is going to be a private, and the setting is going to be private. The reading can be read from any views, but the setting is going to be private, and we're going to set it in our home view model. So it's going to be drinks, which is going to be an array of drink objects. And initially we're going to have an empty array before we get our data, right? Then I will have another at published, again, private set var selected drink, and this is type of a drink and it's an optional. This is going to be used whenever we want to show this in our detail screen. So this will be our selected drink that we are showing currently. All right, and we will have two functions here. The first one is going to fetch all the drinks. We don't care from where, because our view model doesn't have to really know where the drinks are coming from, as long as it gets the drinks, and it will publish that I have received the drinks. So the view that has confirmed to our view model will take them and show them. So we will call this func fetch drinks, and this is going to be an async function because it takes time to fetch our drinks from internet. So it's a network call. So it goes to background thread, and we have to wait until the drinks are ready and downloaded. So we will say do, and then our drinks array will be equal to try, and we have to await until we fetch our drinks. So here we are going to do the fetching, and let's do the catch block here, and we're going to print any error we have received, error fetching drinks, and let's pass our error here and get the localized description of the error. So this we will have some problems here because we haven't finished yet. And the second function is actually func select drink, and we're going to pass a drink here. And whenever we call this function and pass a drink, we are going to take that and put it as our selected drink here. So I will say selected drink is equals to the drink that we have called this function and passed in. All right. So what we need in order to get our view model actually separate from our backend. So if tomorrow you decide to change your backend and do another way of fetching data, your view model will be intact. So we are going to create some kind of repository that is going to do all the fetching and provide the information to our view model. So our view model is completely decoupled from our network calls. All right. So for that, I'm going to create another folder, new group, and call this networking. Okay. And here we will have a new file, call it Firebase repository. I'm calling mine Firebase repository because right now I'm using Firebase for this one. But let's say tomorrow if I decide to use, I don't know, Amazon's EVS, and then I want to change my file, there is only my application, there is only one file I need to change to get my drinks from Amazon instead of, let's say, Google's Firebase. So let's create this repository, final class. Let's copy this. Okay, we have a class, and this class is going to have a function that is going to fetch our drinks. So let's say func fetch drinks, and it's going to be async, and it's going to return array of drink objects when it's done. So for now, what we are going to say is dummy data.drinks. I don't have to put a return keyword here because it's only one line. So right now we are just saying, give me the dummy data.drinks. So whenever we access this Firebase repository, call a function fetch drinks, we just want to get our drinks. So right now we will use dummy data. All right. Another function will be here. Let's actually, since we are here, quickly put it func place order, and we're going to pass an order object to our function. And we want this order to be saved somewhere. But for now, for our purposes, because we haven't connected Firebase and etc. yet, I will just say print, and we want to print place an order with ID. And let's actually pass our ID here. Use string interpolation and say order.id. And also let's print what items we have in our order. So I will say for item in order.items. We have an array of items in our order. So for each order item, let's just say print item.name. So whenever we call this function, we want to make sure that we receive an order and we have some kind of items. So let's get back to our view model here. And I will say we need to access our Firebase repository now in our home view model. So to do that, we are going to create a private let Firebase repository is equals to Firebase repository, and we initialize one. In real life application that you are going to ship, I strongly suggest that you use some kind of data injection here. So we are going to inject our Firebase or whatever repository you have here in order so that our view model is not coupled with our Firebase repository, because right now we are creating this Firebase repository inside our view model. So these two are coupled together. But if you do but in real projects, you should always use a dependency injection so that they are not linked together, and you can pass any type of repository as long as it conforms to some kind of protocols. It will be easier also to do your unit testing that way. For our small project, I'm going to keep it simple and create my Firebase repository here. But I strongly suggest you use some kind of dependency injection here. Okay, so we have access to our Firebase repository. So we will say drinks are equals, and we say try wait, and let's access our Firebase repository and call the fetch drinks function, which is an async function, and it's actually returning an array of drinks. Right now it says we don't actually need to try and do catch block here because our Firebase repository is not throwing any errors. But once we start using our Firebase, it's going to be throwing. So let me just mark throws, because this is going to be useful later on, and also this part of the code will not complain anymore because our function may throw on errors from our Firebase repository. All right, so we have our view model, which is unfortunately just for these purposes coupled with our Firebase repository, but we have two functions that we can call, and that these functions are going to update these two parameters, which are published. Because our fetch drinks is going to get something on a background thread and update our drinks here, which is a UI change. So our UI change should happen on a main thread. I will keep this as it is. So you will see how our Xcode will complain, but we're going to mark it at main actor. I'm going to comment it out for now, so that this function will be called on the main thread whenever the refresh is needed, right?